सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Two important things happened out of central government in New Delhi this Wednesday. One, the customary cabinet meeting, which usually takes place on Wednesdays. So this Wednesday, there were a bunch of headlines. There were 50,000 crores allocated to a new national research foundation. Also, there was a big incentive given out for organic fertilizers, etc., for reducing the amount of chemicals used in Indian fertilizers. But the other thing that happened on the same day, out of the same central government, that stole the limelight. At least that's the way I saw it. So when that story came out, when we ran that story on theprint.in, our website, story done by my colleague and deputy editor, Maushmi Das Gupta, with that tweet, when I shared that story, I said, please see my tweet on your screen. I said, this is probably the most important bit of news to come out of the central government. Now, why did we call it the most important news? At least for some time. That is because after a long time, India gave out a list of the minerals it considers the most important and critical for itself. All over the world right now, there is a scramble for critical minerals. In fact, there is a mineral security partnership that the US set up with all its allies. India so far did not even have a list of the minerals it considered essential or critical to itself. Now, other countries which already are in this partnership, mineral security partnership, are Australia, Canada, Finland, France, Germany, Japan, Republic of Korea, South Korea, that is, Sweden, UK, US, and the European Union, right? Now that India has this list, India has at least taken one step in that direction. India now says, look, these are my cards. I'm putting my cards on the table. This is what I'm concerned about. This is what I'm talking about. So what are these minerals? Now, these are 30. It's quite a long list. I'll read out the list for you, but you will also see the list on your screen. And what I'm also doing is Ministry of Mines. That was the other event that happened yesterday besides the cabinet meeting. After the cabinet meeting, there's a briefing by key ministers on what happened in the cabinet meeting. Later the same day, in the evening, there was an event at Delhi's India International Center where the Ministry of Mines made a wonderful presentation. And that presentation is available in this booklet of which I am sharing a soft copy with you. I'm sharing a link with you. Please take a look at it. So if you go to page 32 of this booklet produced by Ministry of Mines, that has the list of 30 minerals. The list that they have now filtered down to 30 critical minerals. 30 minerals that are critical to India. Many of them sound exotic. Many of them are groups of minerals. I will explain those to you. But some of these are also very common minerals. For example, phosphorus and potash. Now you might say, oh, those are common enough minerals. Why are they critical minerals? Those are considered critical because those go into fertilizers. They are key to fertilizers. So no matter how much organic fertilizer we produce, we will still by and large depend on chemical fertilizers. And these elements right now we have to import in large amounts. We import them from Jordan, from Turkey, from Morocco, many of those countries. So again, these are critical minerals, but those are not in short supply. But again, they are subject to supply chain disruptions. Now look at these 30. I will just quickly read out the list for you. This is alphabetical, not in any order of importance. There is antimony, beryllium, bismuth, cadmium, cobalt, copper, gallium, germanium, graphite, hafnium, indium, lithium. Some of these I'm sure all of us are familiar with because lithium has been in the news a lot, mainly because it goes into electric vehicles and there's a scramble for lithium right now. There have also been stories that some lithium has been found in the Riyasi district of Jammu and Kashmir. Then there's molybdenum, niobium. Niobium again is a very, very important element. Then nickel, we've recently seen a shortage because there were disruptions from Russia. Russia is among the preeminent producers of nickel. That's been brought in some kind of a control right now. But nickel, there's been an issue. Then there are two groups of minerals, and I'm grouping them together. One is PGE. PGE is platinum group elements. Platinum group elements is a bunch of elements, that is platinum, palladium, rhodium, ruthenium, iridium, osmium, right? All of them together are called platinum group elements because they have similar physical and chemical properties to platinum, and they tend to occur together in nature. These are very critical, but they are listed as one element. Again, at number 19, after PGE, after platinum group elements, there are phosphorus and potash, which I spoke about earlier, the fertilizer elements. Then there is REE. REE, as you might have guessed by now, are rare earth elements. Now, rare earth elements, as we had explained to you in an earlier episode of Cut the Clutter, in fact, episode 702, more than 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. In fact, I am sharing a link with you, and what we'll do this Sunday, because this has become such an important issue, we will republish an abridged version of the same episode 702, so even our newer viewers could take a look at it. Now, these rare earth elements are actually a group of 17 elements. The names will run on your screen. I'm not reading out the names for you, otherwise it will sound like an inorganic chemistry class. And I know I read chemistry in college. That used to be among the most boring subjects. So 17 elements under rare earth elements. Then you have rhenium, selenium, silicon, common enough, silicon, strontium, tantalum, tellurium, tin, titanium, tungsten, vanadium, zirconium. So you see the list of 30 on your screen. So these 30 have been listed by Government of India as elements or minerals that are critical to India. Now, how have they arrived at this list? Now, this presentation by the Ministry of Mines, and also the statement that Secretary Mines, the Union Secretary Mines, Vivek Bhardwaj, who's a 1990 batch West Bengal cadre IAS officer, they explained that this was based on a 3-step process. So what were the 3 steps in that process? The first step was to study what other countries have done. I told you that there is a Critical Mineral Alliance or a Mineral Security Partnership, MSP, that's a US-led alliance. I told you that they all have their lists. All those countries have their lists of critical minerals. So in the first step of this process, a study was carried out on all other countries. What are they doing on critical minerals? Number two, they were brainstorming exercises carried out also with some Indian think tanks, particularly CWW, that is Council on Energy, Environment and Water, CEEW, and also CSEP, which is Center for Social and Economic Progress, and all stakeholder ministries. Now, if you see the presentation by the Ministry of Mines, different ministries have listed what minerals they consider critical to themselves. All of that was then distilled down in the third stage based on an empirical formula to arrive at a criticality index. And it was following that criticality index that the list was reduced to or distilled down to these 30 minerals. Now, how was that criticality index arrived at? So the government group looked at economic importance of each mineral and also the supply risk with each one, and then applied a formula to it. So what was the formula? It included disruption potential. That means what are the chances of supplies of this mineral being disrupted? Then substitutability, which means if this mineral is not available, how easy or difficult it is to use another mineral in its place. Cross-cutting usages, that means if this is not available, can you use another mineral in its place? Also the extent of import reliance, how much of it is available at home, how much of it has to be imported, and finally, is it recyclable or not? And if so, how recyclable it is. So it is reasonable to presume that the more recyclable a mineral is, less critical it would be, or less your fear of suddenly not having it and some processes coming to a standstill. So after weighing all of this down, this list of 30 was arrived at. Now, if you broadly group these 30 minerals and you break them down, 17 of these, that is cobalt, graphite, lithium, PGE, that is platinum group elements, nickel, tin, phosphorus, gallium, niobium, magnesium, tungsten, hafnium, strontium, boron, manganese, antimony, and beryllium. They have both supply risks as well as high economic importance for the country. Then another seven elements have high supply risks. These are rare earth elements: bismuth, germanium, indium, tantalum, vanadium, and rhenium. And then there are 9 elements which do have high economic importance. That is copper, silicon, titanium, potash, molybdenum, tellurium, zirconium, selenium, and cadmium. But the concerns about the supply chain disruption are not that high because all of these are found in India to some degree, even if not sufficient to fulfill all our needs. So this is how these are then broken down. Now we have to see what do these elements do. So once again, if you look at these elements and if you see what all they do, it would look like everything in life will come to a standstill, particularly in our modern lives, if these elements were not there. Because remember, rare earth elements are also a part of this. So antimony, for example, I'm just starting with the first one. Antimony is used in flame retardants, lead acid batteries, lead alloys, plastics, glass and ceramics, manufacture of chemicals and chemical products, electrical equipment, fabricated metal products, etc., etc. It is found in India. Is it found in India? A little bit in Lahore, Spiti, etc., but not really enough to be exploited commercially. Cobalt, there's a global scramble for cobalt right now. That's the reason the Chinese have gone and grabbed hold of Democratic Republic of Congo. In fact, one of the joint secretaries from the Ministry of Mines not long ago was in DRC, was visiting DRC because the whole world is focusing on DRC. That's where a bulk of the world's cobalt deposits are, and that's where the Chinese have already established a big foothold. If you're going to go into electric vehicles, batteries, for example, you can't do it without cobalt at all. India imports it from many countries, especially from China. You know why? Because China gets it from DRC and China then refines it and makes it available in commercial quality and quantity, and then countries like India buy it from there. You can go with the rest. Graphite. Now graphite is found in India. There is 9 billion tons of reserves in India and there is production from 12 mines. As you would guess, graphite is important for batteries, lubricants, fuel cells. So we'll not go over every mineral and all the details of where it's used and where it's found. That, if you want in so much detail, you can go to the Ministry of Mines presentation, of which I've shared a link with you. But importantly, look at lithium. Lithium is again an element for which there is a great deal of competition around the world. Without lithium, you cannot have clean technologies, right? Forget it. It's not going to happen. Then a lot of defense and security technologies, batteries, glassware, ceramics, fuel, lubricants, rechargeable batteries, phones, computers, cameras, everything needs lithium. India doesn't have it. Now, some has been found in Riyasi district of Jammu and Kashmir, but these are very early days. So exploration work is still going on. And in fact, the mining secretary said that maybe by the end of this year, we will know how good these reserves are, how exploitable these reserves are. Because remember, the mining and processing of lithium is environmentally a very destructive process. So you don't do it unless the benefits are really great and unless the quality of ore you are getting justifies going through that trouble. Platinum group elements, PG, we know that platinum is used for jewelry, but leave that aside for a moment because jewelry is not life and death for nations. So leave that aside for a moment, but a lot of medicine, a lot of medical, electronic equipment used by military, a lot of the targeting equipment, optical fibers, turbine blades, spark plugs, aerospace equipment, guided missile systems, catalytic converters to reduce emissions, etc. All of these, even chemotherapy, you need PGEs. India has some of it, very little, but very little of it is actually being pulled out as yet. So once again, this will need new projects, new mining, new energy in mining to find these. So in fact, if you go over the list of most of these minerals, you will find some of them, almost all of them are critical to some areas which are cutting edge technologies these days and without which modern life cannot proceed. These are electric vehicles, these are clean energy areas, these are weapons technologies, missiles, guided weapons, MRI scanners, that is high-tech, the cutting-edge medical equipment. So whether you look at gallium, which comes out as a kind of byproduct of aluminum mining, niobium, tungsten, hafnium, many of those have a role in the same processes, and all of these are very critical. Now, what's going to happen is, you might say that it's all right to have this list, to put out this list. What happens next? So after this list has come out, in fact, the Mines Ministry's report has given out a set of recommendations. But more importantly, soon enough, the government is now going to come out. Now that the list is out, government's going to come out with the critical minerals policy. Already in 2021, an amendment was carried out in MMDR Act, that is the Mines and Minerals Development Regulations Act, that allowed the private sector also to go out and explore for minerals in the country. Now, it's one thing to have good laws. It's quite another for that to happen in real life. So I would say that while that was done, we haven't seen so much private sector exploration yet. Because for the private sector also to sink money into something like this, they have to be more sure about the consistency of policy. They have to be more sure about the government's ability to sustain these processes, because mining, particularly mining for critical minerals, is a very risky in terms of expense. It's a very risky and a very patient process. It may take you years and years. Maybe it used to be decades earlier. It used to be years and years, maybe 5 years back. Now, because the prices and need for these things is going up, technologies are improving. Maybe what used to take 5 years earlier might take 18 months now. But the fact is, you need the energy of the private sector in these areas. That's why the new critical minerals policy will be keenly awaited, because expectation, particularly of the private sector, would be that the government now again brings about some degree, a great degree, in fact, of ease of doing business or ease of doing exploration in India. Because India is among the most poorly explored countries in the world. A lot of people like to say, oh, but India does not have so much mineral wealth. A lot of people also say, somewhat patronizingly, that you Indians may not have so much oil, or maybe not so much precious metals, gold, platinum, stuff like that. But you know what? You got people. So mind your people, mind the minds of your people. That's a very good thing. We have people, we have human resources. But why must we presume that India does not have mineral resources? Because India does. And in any case, you cannot come to that conclusion unless India has been properly explored. Now, there's been a time, beginning with, say, 2003, 4, 5, say generally from the Avatar era. Generally since the era of the movie Avatar, right, which was built on resource exploitation, etc. And that led to a mindset globally that became anti-mining or the anti-resources business. But you know what? Today, you want to reduce your pollution. Today, you want renewables. Today, you want electric vehicles. What do you need for that? What's critical there is minerals. So once again, the mood on mining and minerals is changing. So it is an opportunity for India to lose. That's why this thought process to begin now is a very good thing. Now, this list will be reviewed periodically because technologies will change, needs will change, priorities will change. The important thing for the government now to do is to take the next logical step. That is now coming up with an open-hearted, large-hearted, modern exploration policy that makes it worthwhile for the private sector, also for global players to come and explore in India. Because once again, India is a highly unexplored country. And because we haven't explored our country seriously enough for minerals, we have actually done ourselves a great deal of disservice. This is the time now to rectify those errors of the past.